"Make my daughter speak again," Vivian Thorne said into the microphone, "and I'll give you everything." The ballroom did not breathe. Crystal glasses hung in midair. Forks stopped above white china. Somewhere near the back, an ice bucket hissed as it settled into its stand, and the tiny sound felt louder than the room itself. Lily Cade flinched at the voice. Not because it was cruel, because it was too loud, too public, too close to the kind of pressure that had taught her silence in the first place. Ethan saw it at once. A father like him had learned to read tremors no machine could catch. The tightening in her fingers, the way her shoulders folded inward, the fixed stare at the tablecloth, as if one more human face might become too much to hold. He moved before anyone else understood. His chair scraped hard across polished wood. In 2 strides, he was beside Lily, dropping to one knee, turning his back to the crowd so she could see only him. He did not touch her immediately. He knew better. He planted one hand on the edge of the chair, the other open over his own chest, steady and low, showing her the rhythm. In for 4. Hold. Out for 4. The gala guests had come to watch a miracle auction. Instead, they watched a former Navy SEAL shield his daughter from one. "Space," Ethan said, without looking up. 3 medical specialists had already started toward them, eager, alarmed, embarrassed by what the scene might become. They stopped when they heard his tone. Not sharp, not panicked. Final. Lily's breathing turned thin. Vivian stepped down from the small stage, satin whispering against the carpet. Her diamonds caught the chandelier light, but her face had lost all ceremony. She had made the offer in desperation, not theater. Everyone in the county knew that much. Wealth had not saved her own family from grief, and tonight's fundraiser had become something rawer than money. Still, desperation could do damage. "You're making it worse," one of the specialists said. Ethan looked up then, just once. The room quieted under that look. "No," he said. "You are." Lily pressed both hands over her ears. Her water glass tipped. It shattered against the floor. Several guests gasped and surged backward. One family court official, seated near the front, pulled out a notepad at once. That small movement did not escape Ethan. Neither did the second official leaning in to watch. County eyes, measuring hands, recording every crack in his control. This was not just a bad moment. This could become a judgment. Vivian saw that too. And for the first time that night, she acted instead of speaking. She took the microphone from its stand and clicked it off. The speakers died with a soft pop. Then she turned to the string quartet in the corner and lifted one hand. Silence answered her. Not social silence. Merciful silence. The kind that makes room for breath. Lily's eyes moved. From the broken glass. To Vivian. Then back to Ethan. He lowered his voice even more. "You're here with me." A long second passed. Then another. The scent of spilled mineral water mixed with candle wax and old money. A waiter crouched to gather glass, but Vivian stopped him with a glance. No more movement. No more noise. No more strangers trying to fix what they did not understand. Ethan took a card from his jacket pocket. A worn index card. Edges softened by use. On it, in blue marker, were the steps Mara Holloway had taught them for nights like this. See 5 things. Touch 4. Hear 3. It was not magic. It was patient work. Honest work. The kind no rich promise could buy in a single sentence. Lily tapped the chair once. Then twice. Then touched the card. Ethan nodded. That was her choice. Her step. Not a cure, but a return. Across the room, Vivian's face changed. She was no longer looking at Ethan like a stubborn father who had interrupted her dramatic plea. Vivian Thorne did not sit back down. The ballroom stayed bright. Too bright. Crystal lights trembled above polished silver, and the soft string quartet near the stage kept playing for 3 confused seconds before silence finally caught up with the room. Lily still had the card in her hand. Ethan Cade watched her fingers. Not the crowd. Not the money. Just her fingers, curled around that small white square as if it were something earned, not given. Then Vivian stepped away from her table. Her heels clicked across the marble. Sharp. Measured. Public. Every one of the 24 gala guests turned toward her, waiting for outrage, or pity, or a check big enough to make the room feel noble again. Instead, Vivian stopped in front of Lily and lowered herself slowly to one knee. The movement changed the air. Her voice, when it came, had lost its performance. I was wrong. No one breathed. Vivian looked at Lily first, not Ethan. I asked for a miracle like it was something a person could buy. I made your pain part of a room full of applause. That was cruel, even if I dressed it up as hope. Lily did not flinch. She touched the edge of the card once. Then she looked up. Ethan said nothing. Quiet had carried him this far. Grace often arrives that way. Vivian rose, turned to the stage, and reached for the microphone again. This time, there was no drama in her posture. Only decision. The offer stands, she said, her voice steady now, but the terms changed tonight. A murmur moved through the ballroom. I will still fund every treatment that may help Lily Cade. Every test. Every specialist. Every mile of travel. But Ethan Cade owes me nothing. No promises. No spectacle. No surrender of his daughter's dignity. That landed harder than the original offer. One of the local donors shifted in his chair. A woman at the nearest table lowered her champagne glass without drinking. Across the room, the three medical specialists exchanged brief, guarded looks. Money had just changed sides. Not from rich to poor. From control to respect. Vivian continued. And before any physician in this room speaks again about what cannot be done, they will review every file with Mara Holloway present, and with Ethan Cade in the room, as Lily's father. There it was. Not charity. Recognition. Mara Holloway, who had stayed near the side aisle like someone used to working in shadows instead of spotlights, lifted her chin just slightly. She had not asked for that authority, but she accepted it with the stillness of a person who understood what it cost to be trusted in public. The sound system gave off a faint hum. Someone dropped a fork. No one bent to pick it up. Ethan finally spoke, low and even. You don't need to prove anything to me. Vivian looked at him with an expression older than wealth. I know, she said. That may be why I need to prove it to myself. Then she did something none of them expected. She called for the county officials. The two family court officials had been near the back of the ballroom all evening, invited as donors, though everyone understood they were also there because Lily's case had become whispered civic gossip. A quiet father. A silent child. Questions about stability. Questions about care. Questions asked too easily by people who had never stayed awake through night terrors. Vivian faced them without blinking. You both received letters, she said. Recommendations. Concerns. Opinions about whether Ethan Cade was equipped to make sound medical decisions for Lily. The room chilled. Ethan's shoulders went still. This was the real wound. Not money. Not embarrassment. Authority. One of the officials cleared his throat, but did not interrupt. Vivian lifted a cream envelope from the table beside the podium. Heavy paper. Wax seal broken. I know, she said, because one of those letters came from my foundation office. It should never have been sent. The silence deepened. She did not look away. I signed support for a guardianship review after hearing polished summaries from people who mistook silence for neglect. I never met Lily Cade. I never watched Ethan Cade protect her from a room like this one. Tonight, that ends. The confession struck harder than any accusation could have. Mara moved then. One step forward. A choice, not a reaction. She has made progress, Mara said, calm and clear. Measured, consistent progress. Not because she was forced, because she was finally allowed to feel safe. Any review that ignores trauma-informed care would be incomplete. Now Lily acted. Small. Simple. World-changing in its own scale. She reached sideways and took Ethan's hand first. Then, after a breath, she extended the other hand toward Mara Holloway. A bridge. Not a cure. Not yet. But a triangle of trust no courtroom summary could reduce to a line item. One of the officials gave a slow, reluctant nod. The other asked for the full records by morning. The threat had not vanished. It had changed form. What had been whisper and suspicion was now official, documented, moving. But for the first time, it was moving in the light. Rain tapped the kitchen window like cautious knuckles. The apartment had gone still in that fragile hour after officials left, when paperwork remained on the table like a second kind of threat. Warm lamplight pooled across the wood, catching on a chipped blue mug, a stack of county forms, and the construction paper drawing Lily Cade had refused to let anyone throw away. Mara Holloway did not speak at first. Neither did Ethan Cade. Silence, in rooms like this, was not emptiness. It was evidence waiting for courage. Lily Cade slept on the couch under a gray blanket, one hand curled near her chin, the other resting over the small stuffed fox she carried everywhere now. The television was dark. The radiator clicked twice. Somewhere downstairs, a dog barked and stopped. Mara Holloway looked at the drawing again. "A house," she said softly. Ethan Cade nodded. "And 3 figures." Another nod. "But one is crossed out." The words landed quietly. Still, they landed hard. He moved closer, forearms braced against the table, and studied the page as if it might confess under pressure. Crayon lines. A front door. A moon in one corner. 3 stick figures near the porch. One larger. One smaller. One scribbled over so violently the paper had nearly torn. "She did that 2 weeks after the accident," he said. Mara Holloway traced the air above the page, never touching it. "Children don't always erase what they hate," she said. "Sometimes they erase what they cannot survive remembering." The room seemed to shrink around that sentence. Ethan Cade opened the old plastic file box he had dragged from the hall closet after the officials left. It smelled faintly of dust, detergent, and aged paper. Inside were hospital discharge packets, school notes, speech evaluations, and the dead weight of things adults collect when they are losing a child by inches and calling it documentation. He had searched these papers before for answers. Tonight, he searched them for patterns. No raised voice. No battlefield urgency. Just a father sitting in kitchen light, teaching his own hands how to be patient. At the bottom of the box, beneath an intake folder from one of the 3 medical specialists, his fingers found a cracked tablet in a faded rubber case. Lily Cade's. The screen was scratched. One corner was dented. "I thought it was dead," he said. Mara Holloway glanced toward the couch. "Can it charge?" He plugged it in beside the coffee maker. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a dull battery icon appeared, red and thin as a pulse hanging on by grace. They waited. The rain thickened. The refrigerator hummed. Lily Cade turned once in her sleep and whispered something too faint to hold. When the screen finally opened, it revealed dozens of children's recordings, half-sung songs, toy reviews, shaky videos of cereal bowls and socks, and ceiling fans. Normal little fragments from before the silence. Ethan Cade's jaw tightened, but he kept going. Then he found one marked only by a date. The night of the fire. He pressed play. At first there was darkness and static. Then Lily Cade's small face flashed into frame, frightened, breathless, lit by a lamp somewhere off-screen. A woman's voice called from another room, blurred by distance and smoke alarm chirps. The camera dropped, pointed at carpet, then a doorway, then moving shadows. A child's voice, shaking. "I did it." The recording cut for half a second, resumed sideways, and caught a lamp on the floor. "I touched it," Lily Cade whispered on the screen. "I made it fall." Ethan Cade went completely still. Mara Holloway inhaled, slow and careful. The clip ended there. Not with flames. Not with proof. Just with terror, self-blame, and the kind of conclusion only a child would turn into a life sentence. He searched the box again with new urgency, but not panic. Pattern. He needed pattern. Under the tablet lay 3 folded drawings tied with a purple yarn string. Each showed the same living room from different angles. In each one, a lamp near the couch. Morning light pooled across the therapist's rug, pale and honest, while the 3 drawings lay between a box of crayons and a glass of water untouched. The room smelled faintly of cedar and old books. A white noise machine hummed near the door. Nothing in Mara Holloway's office tried to impress anyone, and that seemed to be the point. Lily Cade sat cross-legged in a beanbag chair, small hands folded tight in her lap. Ethan Cade took the wooden chair by the wall instead of the couch, back straight, boots planted, as if comfort itself were a tactical mistake. Mara noticed it and said nothing at first. She studied the drawings before she studied the child. "The lamp matters," Mara said. Ethan nodded once. "It's in every picture." And Lily stopped drawing people. Silence gathered. Lily's eyes moved, Not to Mara, but to Ethan. That was the first answer. Mara set the pages down with careful fingers. I'm not here to fix her. The words landed hard. Ethan's jaw shifted. Then what are we doing here? Listening to what her silence is protecting. He did not like that. It showed in the stillness around his mouth, in the controlled breath through his nose, in the way his hand closed over one knee and held there. He had come for a method, a sequence, a map from wound to recovery. Instead, Mara offered a mirror. Lily reached for a crayon, but did not draw. Mara leaned back. Children often borrow their parents' nervous system, especially after fear, especially after guilt. She was the one in the room, Ethan said. And now you're the one still living in it. The air changed. Even the white noise machine seemed louder. He looked at Mara with the guarded focus of a man who had spent years reading danger before danger spoke. You think this is about me. I think Lily watches you more than she listens to me. That hit closer than accusation. It carried no heat, only truth, and truth had a cleaner blade. Lily turned the purple yarn string in her fingers. Mara softened her voice, but not her point. When she looks at you, what does she see? A father grieving with her? Or a man standing post beside a disaster, making sure no one gets in? Ethan said nothing. The child looked down. Mara waited. Grace sometimes looked like patience. Sometimes it looked like refusing to rescue someone from the truth too soon. At last Ethan spoke. If I let down my guard, everything comes apart. For you? Mara asked. For both of us. No, Mara said quietly. For you. That was the harder mirror. The session stalled after that. Mara invited Lily to place toy figures around a dollhouse room. Lily lined them in a row by the wall. Mara asked if any of them wanted to sit near the lamp. Lily froze. Her breathing changed. Ethan noticed before Mara did. He was out of the chair in a second, crouching near his daughter. It's okay, he said too fast. You don't have to do this. Lily nodded at once, relieved. Mara did not interrupt. She only watched the exchange with sad recognition. The child had taken her cue. Retreat had become the family language. When Lily was in the waiting area with coloring pencils and a volunteer from the front desk, Mara closed the office door halfway and faced Ethan without ceremony. You save her every time the memory gets close, she said. I stop her from spiraling. You stop her from choosing. His expression hardened. She's 9 and terrified, which is why she needs one safe adult who can stay present without taking control of the fear. The words hung there like a challenge, neither cruel nor optional. Ethan glanced through the cracked doorway. Lily was coloring a square of blue over and over, pressing so hard the pencil might snap. What if pushing makes it worse? He asked. Mara shook her head. I'm not asking you to push. I'm asking you to stop shielding yourself with competence. She let that settle. You know how to secure a room. Fluorescent light hummed above the therapy room, thin and cold, while the scent of old paper and lemon cleaner sat in the air. Lily kept dragging the blue pencil across the page until the wax tip flattened, making the same square darker, harder, almost bruised. Mara Holloway did not move closer. She stayed by the bookshelf, hands folded, giving the silence room to breathe. Ethan Cade stood at the cracked doorway as if it were a threshold he had crossed 1,000 times in war and never once at home. He looked at Lily, then at the floor, then nowhere at all. The quiet was not empty. It was crowded with things he had outrun for years. A wall clock clicked. Outside, tires whispered over wet pavement. On the low table beside Lily sat the old recorder, the one found among unfinished drawings and broken pieces of memory, its red light dead, its plastic shell scratched white at the edge. Mara's words stayed where she had left them. Stop shielding yourself with competence. For a long moment, Ethan did nothing. That had been his discipline. Lock it down. Hold the line. Control the room before the room controlled you. It had kept men alive. It had also built a distance inside his own house, so wide that even grief had learned to echo in it. When he finally spoke, his voice came low and stripped clean. I told myself I was protecting her. Lily's hand paused. Not much, but enough. Rain tapped the window. Somewhere in the building, a door shut with a padded thud. Ethan took one step in, then another, and lowered himself into the child-sized chair across from his daughter. It made his broad frame look awkward, almost defenseless. Maybe that was grace beginning, not comfort, but honesty. "I need to tell the truth," he said. Mara remained silent. Lily did not look up, but she was listening. "The night my wife died, I saw the signs sooner than I admitted. She was unraveling. I knew she was spiraling." He swallowed once. "I also had a call. A man from my old world needed help. Not official, not noble, just urgent enough for me to use it as an excuse." The words came slower now, each one costing him something pride had guarded for too long. "I chose distance because distance felt organized. I chose duty because duty came with rules. I chose control because presence asked for something I didn't know how to give." His hands tightened on his knees. "I told myself I'd come back in time. I told myself one night would not matter." Lily's shoulders stiffened. A child's body remembers what adults rename. Ethan drew a breath that trembled on the way in. She saw more than I knew. Not just the ambulance lights. Not just the aftermath. His eyes went to the recorder on the table. "She heard us arguing before I left. She heard me say I couldn't stay there and watch another collapse. She heard the door close. The room went still. Not dead still. Listening still. I was not with your mother when she needed me most," he said, and now he was speaking to Lily alone. "And when you stopped talking, I made the same mistake again. I treated your silence like a problem to solve instead of a wound I had helped create." No one interrupted him. No one softened it. That was respect. Tears stood in Lily's eyes before they fell. She stared at the blue square until the color blurred. Her fingers loosened around the pencil. It rolled off the page and tapped the rug. Ethan did not rush to pick it up. That mattered. "I cannot change that night," he said. "I cannot make myself innocent by loving you harder now. But I can stop hiding behind being useful." His voice cracked then, quiet but unmistakable. "I failed your mother. And I failed you by acting like strength meant never kneeling in the truth." Lily's breath hitched. Then, with the fragile uncertainty of someone crossing ice she did not trust, she lifted one hand. The small hand rose only halfway, trembling in the lamp glow, and that was when the knock came. Not loud, not rude. Worse than that. Official. Rain tapped the apartment window in thin, nervous lines. The hallway smelled like wet carpet and old paint. On the table between them sat the recorder, the unfinished session notes, and Lily's page of broken color drawings that no child should have had to make sense of alone. Ethan opened the door to find two family court officials in county badges, their folders sealed in plastic against the weather. They were not cruel men. That was the sharpest part of it. Their voices stayed gentle. Their shoes stayed clean. Their words still struck like iron. A welfare review had been initiated. An emergency guardianship inquiry had been requested. Concerns had been filed regarding emotional instability, coercive therapeutic exposure, and a growing public environment that might place Lily at risk. Lily froze behind him. The hand she had lifted fell back to her lap. Silence moved through the room like cold water. Mara Holloway arrived less than 20 minutes later, hair damp from the storm, coat unbuttoned, face drained of color, but steady. She did not waste a second asking who had done it. She already knew the shape of this kind of violence. It never came yelling. It came typed, stamped, and signed by people who called fear prudence. One of the officials explained that several calls had been logged after the charity gala. Public concern had escalated after witnesses described Ethan's fixation on making a miracle happen. The three medical specialists previously consulted for Lily had each been contacted for statements. None of them had endorsed his recent approach. None could verify what had happened in that apartment. That uncertainty had been enough for influential people to start pushing. And Vivian Thorne's name, though spoken softly, landed the heaviest. Not because she had filed the complaint. Because people around her had. Donors, advisors, friends with polished grief and expensive certainty. They argued that a wealthy home with private care, legal insulation, and distance from scandal would better protect Lily from becoming a town spectacle. In their version of mercy, a father became a liability the moment he stopped being easy to pity. Ethan did not raise his voice. That, too, mattered. He asked one question, then another, then one more. Was Lily in immediate danger? No. Had he harmed her? No evidence. Was this review triggered by neglect? No. The older official shifted his folder and admitted the truth hidden beneath the formal language. The county feared a public disaster. A silent child, a decorated former operator, a dead mother, a wealthy widow tied to a very public promise. People were no longer seeing a family. They were seeing a story. And stories, once fed, made institutions nervous. Lily's breathing turned shallow. Mara crossed the room slowly and knelt beside her, not touching her, only anchoring the space with calm. She asked if Lily wanted the lamp dimmed. One blink meant yes. Mara dimmed it. Grace, in hard moments, often looked that small. Then Vivian arrived. No escort. No umbrella over her head. Just rain on her shoulders and fury held together by discipline. The officials stiffened when they saw her. So did the room. Vivian listened without interrupting. She looked at the documents. She looked at Ethan. She looked at Lily, who would not lift her eyes. And when she finally spoke, her voice was low enough to make everyone else lean in. She said she had not authorized this. She said no one would turn that child into a charitable symbol to soothe elite panic. She said if her name had opened this door, then her name would close it. But justice is rarely that simple. The officials informed her the process had already begun. Statements had been entered. Temporary observation measures would proceed unless the court received compelling testimony by morning. Ethan would need to submit to evaluation. Lily could be separately interviewed. If the inquiry widened, temporary placement outside the home could be considered while the review continued. Rain tapped the truck roof in a nervous rhythm as the county envelope lay open on the passenger seat, its white paper brighter than the dark road ahead. The words inside had done what bullets and blood never could. They had made a disciplined man feel helpless. The lake road narrowed with every mile. Pine branches scraped the sides. Mist dragged low across the headlights. And beside Ethan Cade, Lily Cade sat with her small hands wrapped around the old recorder as if it were the last warm thing left in the world. Mara Holloway had told him not to do this tonight. The medical specialists had warned against sudden environmental exposure. Even common sense had stood in the doorway and asked him to wait until morning. But there are hours when waiting becomes its own form of cowardice. And Ethan knew the difference. The cabin appeared through the rain exactly where memory had kept it. Dark wood, sagging porch, one broken lantern hook near the steps. The same place where a family had once come for quiet and left with a silence so deep it changed the shape of a child's life. He killed the engine. Neither of them moved. The lake wind pressed against the truck with a low, steady moan. Ethan looked at Lily, but he did not reach for her door. He did not issue instructions. He did not say, "It's okay," because both of them would have known that was not true. Instead, he spoke as gently as a man setting down a weapon. "We can leave." Rain ticked harder. "You choose." Lily did not answer. Then her fingers tightened around the recorder, and she opened the door herself. That mattered. The porch boards complained under their weight. Inside, the air carried the scent of wet timber, old ashes, and the faint mildew of a place abandoned too long by ordinary life. Ethan found the switch, but only one lamp answered, throwing a weak amber circle across the room. Dust glimmered. A folded quilt still rested on the couch. On the stone hearth stood the framed photo they had never taken home. 3 faces, smiling into a summer sun that now felt borrowed from another world. Lily stopped when she saw it. Her breath changed first. Shorter. Shallower. The recorder slipped against her palm. Ethan felt the old instinct rise in him like fire. Move, control, fix, extract. For years that instinct had kept people alive. For years it had also kept grief sealed behind locked doors. Tonight, he did something harder. He stayed still. "Nothing bad has to happen now," he said. No command. No pressure. Just truth. Lily took one step toward the hearth. Then another. Outside, thunder rolled over the lake, low and distant, like furniture being dragged across heaven. Her eyes moved from the photo to a child's yellow raincoat still hanging by the back door. Too small now. Too bright. A relic from the last ordinary day. The buried moment began to gather around her. Rain. Wood smoke. A slammed screen door. Her shoulders jerked. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. Ethan did not close the distance. That was the test, and grace sometimes looks less like action than restraint. He had spent too long fighting every thread, as if force alone could save what fear had stolen. Mara Holloway had told him Lily did not need a commander inside the memory. She needed a witness who would not disappear. So he became one. "I'm here," he said quietly. The lamp flickered. The lake answered the thunder. Lily stared at the raincoat, then at the back door, and suddenly she ran to it. Ethan followed, but not to stop her. He reached it just as she pushed it open, and the storm wind drove cold rain into the cabin. The dock beyond tilted black over the rough water. That was where it had happened. Not in theory, not in fragments. There, Lily stood frozen in the doorway, shaking so hard the recorder knocked against the frame. Rain hit the dock in hard, slanting lines, drumming on warped boards and dead leaves like knuckles on a locked door. The lake smelled of mud and pine rot. Lightning flashed once, and the old raincoat in Lily Cade's hands turned pale yellow in the blue-white burst. Silence followed. Not peace. The kind of silence that waits. Lily Cade did not step forward. She did not speak, but she did not run back inside either. Her small fingers gripped the recorder so tightly the plastic creaked, and Mara Holloway, standing just behind her in the cabin light, understood what the child had done. She had walked to the exact edge of the wound. She had chosen it. Then headlights swept through the trees. A black sedan rolled up the gravel drive, too clean for the weather, too deliberate for chance. Its engine idled low. The wipers beat time against the windshield. Ethan Cade turned first, shoulders tightening, body shifting on instinct between the cabin and the unknown arrival. He did not need to guess who had come. Some people arrived with perfume, promises, and pressure all at once. Vivian Thorne stepped out beneath a large umbrella held by one of the gala guests who had driven her there. The donor remained near the car, face hidden by rain and distance, while Vivian Thorne crossed the yard alone. Her coat was dark wool, already jeweled with water. Even in the storm, she moved like a woman used to doors opening before she reached them. Mara Holloway met her at the threshold. "This isn't the time." Vivian Thorne's gaze went past her, straight to Lily Cade, then to the recorder, then to Ethan Cade. "It is exactly the time." Her voice stayed soft. That made it heavier. Inside, the cabin smelled of wet wood, old coffee, and the sharp mineral scent of lightning. Rain rattled the single-pane windows. The unfinished recording sat on the table beside Lily Cade's drawings, each page filled with broken loops, dark water, and one yellow shape repeated again and again. Vivian Thorne looked at all of it with the grave attention of someone approaching an altar. "I came alone to ask one final time," she said. "No audience. No public offer. No lawyers tonight." Ethan Cade said nothing. Vivian Thorne took one careful step farther in. "The 3 medical specialists are ready. A private residential recovery center in Connecticut is prepared to admit her immediately. 24-hour observation, trauma reconstruction, neurological care, security, tutors, any treatment money can buy." She paused, letting the rain speak around her. "I can also quiet the family court officials. Permanently. No more reviews. No more threats hanging over your home." Mara Holloway's jaw tightened. "You call that help?" "I call it certainty," Vivian Thorne said. Then she faced Ethan Cade fully. "Wealth, protection, influence. A future where no one can touch her. A future where no one can touch you. The house can be held in trust. Every bill erased. Every door opened. Give the clinicians authority. Let professionals take over this recovery before love ruins it." The words landed cleanly. That was the cruelty of them. Lily Cade looked up at Ethan Cade, not understanding every sentence, but understanding enough. Children always did. Her breathing changed first. Shallow. Quick. The recorder tapped once against her leg. Ethan Cade glanced at the drawings, then at the raincoat, then at his daughter's face. No anger crossed him at first. Only an old, exhausted grief. A man could survive gunfire, he thought, and still be split open by a choice made in a one-room cabin. Vivian Thorne lowered her voice. "Name the number." "No." The answer came so quietly that even the rain seemed to lean closer. Vivian Thorne did not blink. You haven't heard the full offer. I heard enough. This is not pride. This is practicality. At that, something in Ethan Cade finally moved. Not loud, not wild, just final. It was pride, he said, that made people talk over her. Pride that made them study her like a case file. Pride, Ethan Cade said, made people decide she was gone before they had the patience to wait. The rain tapped the cabin windows in a soft, steady coat. Pine soaked the air. The old recorder sat on the table between them, its red light dark now, its plastic shell scratched by years and weather and too many hands searching for answers inside it. Vivian Thorne looked at it first, then at Lily Cade, then at Mara Holloway, who had not moved from the doorway. No one hurried him. That was the difference now. Ethan reached into the inside pocket of his jacket and pulled out the folded page Mara had given him 2 nights earlier. The page held no miracle cure, no prescription, no promise, just patterns, repeated sounds, repeated images, repeated moments before Lily's silence had first sealed itself shut. The unfinished recording, the same lighthouse sketch, the same 3-note hum, the same gap whenever a man's voice pushed too hard. Mara stepped closer, careful, as if even her shoes respected the quiet. Do you want me to explain it? Ethan shook his head. No, I want them to hear it from her. Vivian Thorne's expression changed then, not into offense, into humility, a rare thing, costly thing. She sat down. The old floor creaked under her weight. Then tell us what you need. Not what do you want. What do you need? Ethan knelt in front of Lily. Her small fingers still held the edge of his sleeve. He did not pry them loose. He let her keep her anchor. You don't have to perform, he said. Lily's eyes lifted to his. You don't have to prove anything. A breath. You only have to follow the light. Mara quietly took the recorder, pressed play, and set it near the window where the rain softened into a hush. Static breathed into the room. Then a woman's voice, warm and low, half singing the melody Lily's hand had traced for weeks without sound. 3 notes. Pause. 3 notes again. Lily flinched. Not backward. Forward. Ethan did not touch her. He did not coach. Did not plead. The whole world had been pleading at that child for months. Tonight, for the first time, the world made space. Mara spoke gently. The memory isn't broken. It's trapped. Vivian Thorne whispered, almost to herself. By what? Ethan answered without looking away from Lily. By the moment she thought speaking changed nothing. The recorder played on. A scrape. A distant laugh. A woman saying, faintly, if anything ever happens, you follow the light, baby. Then the tape clipped off, unfinished, brutal in its incompletion. Lily's lips parted. Nothing came. The room held still. Rain. Breath. Wood settling. Then Lily reached for the lighthouse drawing on the table. She pressed her palm over the yellow crayon beam she had colored again and again until the paper had nearly torn. And in a voice worn thin by absence, she said, Mama. No one moved. Not Vivian Thorne. Not Mara Holloway. Not even Ethan Cade. The word landed in the room like mercy. Lily swallowed hard, eyes flooding now, not with panic but release. Mama said, follow the light. Ethan shut his eyes for one brief second, as if the force of relief might knock him down if he left them open. When he looked at her again, his face had gone completely still, the way men go still when joy hurts almost as much as grief. You remember, he whispered. Lily nodded. The storm. The road. She was singing. Her voice trembled, then steadied on the next truth. I heard glass break. She gripped the drawing tighter. I called for her. Nobody came. Mara's hand rose to her own mouth. Not from surprise. From reverence. The silence had never been emptiness. It had been a child waiting at the edge of the worst moment of her life, with no safe bridge back. Vivian Thorne stood slowly. Her eyes shone, but her voice stayed level. The offer stands, she said, but not as a purchase. Ethan rose to his feet, Lily leaning against him now, no longer hidden.